Welcome to the BYOD Podcast, Bring Your Own Directions. My name is Björn, co-CEO of Resolution, and in this show, where every guest sets their own path, sharing insights and ideas about Agile topics and the Atlassian ecosystem. Proudly sponsored by NASA, not another stand-up app. The Atlassian marketplace app that makes Agile ceremonies, stand-ups, and planning sessions not just efficient, but also enjoyable. So please stand by. So welcome back. Today with me is Funman Andy, aka Andy Barker. So let's say hello to him. Hey Andy.
Hey Björn, guten Tag.
Guten Tag, how's it going?
It is going very well. How's it going with you?
Good. I think we have the same weather, but it looks much colder on your side. So
Yeah.
you have a scarf and
I had to turn my heater off for the background noise. So
oh, good. Thanks for this. I think every listener and every person who's watching this is super thankful for this.
My pleasure.
Perfect. So you are straight back from Belgium, Atlassian.
Yes, 2 days conferencing on the conference part of Atlas Camp, talking all about Atlassian updates from a technical perspective for the devs. So
how was it? I was last time a little bit not really impressed because, first of all, I was on an Atlas Camp, which is already a mistake. It's a dev thing normally.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of partner marketing people, partner managers, product owners. So half of the people were not devs and said, okay, another Atlassian sales event. I found it a little bit sad personally. How was it this year?
This year was really good. I think they understood the feedback from last time and they said, okay, it really needs to be more about devs and the people within our marketplace world that are developing and using our systems and everything like that. There was enough content that made it interesting for the owners of marketplace partners to be there as well, senior leadership teams and those kind of people. The most interesting topic, one of the talks I went to, was about the new bond terms that Atlassian's introduced for all. So it's like the legal umbrella to cover their enterprise customers, but of course it causes much troubles. Long story short, customers are still reaching out to marketplace partners to deal with EULAs or terms and conditions one-on-one, for all the apps they use. But overall, very good, very technical. I think plus 90% was devs, was technical people. Great keynote from the CD project guys. So shout out to Jakub and Bartosz, famous for the Witcher computer game. Talking about how they use tooling and stuff. And it was really awesome because most Atlassians were from Australia, because that's where the team from Forge sits. And if you want to hear about Forge, you need to be in Atlas Camp to listen about Forge.
Were there other topics besides Forge?
There was Forge, there was forging ahead, there was connecting on Forge, there was disconnecting from Connect. So, no, I guess.
I read the technical summary of our tech lead. And there was also Forge here, Forge there, Forge here, Forge there, Connect on Forge, and the end of life of Connect. And that also Connect on Forge is somehow then not allowed anymore or whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So that's super interesting. I mean, we have also a couple of Forge apps. When I think about all the big ones like Tempo, EasyBI, and so on, so super complex apps, and how they can be migrated or developed in Forge.
Difficult. There's one marketplace partner who was there, who, having had a good chat with them, currently there is not even the accessibility for them to do what they do in Connect in Forge. So that's an interesting part of the whole Forge program and everything. That some people they want to migrate, they want to get going, but there's literally the abilities are not there yet, which I find very interesting. And then from a business perspective, on day 2, the keynote, just before the gents from CD Projekt came on stage, Tiffany Toe was doing a nice Atlassian update, and I found it very interesting that current opportunities for Atlassian is in excess of $18 billion, and $14 billion is coming from enterprise. So nothing new for people in the Atlassian ecosystem, but again, enterprise, cloud, that's the focus, that's the strategy, right? So.
And it's the old Pareto principle, or 80-20, when I calculate quickly. So
it is. Yeah.
Some things never change. Good to hear.
It
means I can still use it in trainings and consulting sessions, the 80-20 stuff, still working. We jump now direct into Atlas Camp. So maybe let's move a little bit into introduction of you. We can maybe do it. Why were you on Atlas Camp? What was the reason why
that's a great question.
Went to Atlas Camp?
For those who don't know me, a bit weird. Why don't you know me? No, just obviously.
You are relatively famous in the Atlassian ecosystem, or it's hard to not knowing you.
It is. It's hard not to know who I am particularly in this ecosystem, and just the fun man, trying to work out how to have fun in both work and life, and solving that great puzzle of how to make people happy and everything. And our new company as of last summer, Fun In Companies, shortened to Fun Inc., is we have this awesome life goal in our philosophy that's changing the business world to create a world of happy humans. And we do that primarily through growth strategy consulting, as well as focusing on the culture part. And long story short, we are, in particular in the Atlassian ecosystem, we're also non-Atlassian and also non-tech. So we've spoken with building companies and stuff like that as well, which is interesting. The reason we went to Atlas Camp is being phoned, contacted nonstop by marketplace partners, even some solution partners, about the current state of Atlassian and how it's rapidly changing, what to do. Let's put it this way. It's too black and white to say people are unhappy, right? There's different nuances in how they feel or whatever, but let's just say people are unhappy for the purpose of being short and having a good summary. And so going to Atlas Camp, especially for that 2-day conference part, that's a bit more marketing, a little bit more on the business side before the devs dive into 3 full days of their workshops and everything from the Wednesday onwards. And it's good to understand exactly what Atlassian's doing with Forge, how they're pushing on it, what's coming up, because what we're experiencing is that the partners don't know how to react. So not with Forge per se, but definitely with requests for changes, the famous monetization one, RFC 60. The day last summer that went from this one-pager, some bullet points, bit of explanation, it suddenly became this huge, takes 2 hours to read and interpret document.
I also wrote a comment on this,
I've read all the comments. Yes, I saw you on there. But I was phoned by 3 North American-based, fairly sizable partners, 2 mid-size, one top 10. Just, what do we do with this? And asking for a chat and running through it. And for me, I love the puzzles, Rubik's cubes. So for me, I see the opportunities, and I see, okay, well, this is a problem, and cool, let's be angry and upset and badmouth Atlassian. But on the other hand, well, what's your opportunities? Make the little SWOT and stuff like that. So we get a lot of people who are, I think the best way to describe it is within the product management circles, which is then more development, DevOps and everything. Product teams are busy with what they do, which is DevOpsing, releasing, support, roadmaps, customer success, or whatever. And so something like RFC 60 is a big project in itself that suddenly comes out, and they have to now also focus some time and energy on that. And so when they look for answers, sometimes the quick answer is Fun Inc. They know a lot. They know the ecosystem well. And so Atlas Camp was a big research for me in terms of, well, what's going on with Forge? How do people need to behave? What have they got to react to? How much time do they dedicate to it? Had a great chat with Julian Wolf from Cybert Group GmbH.
Yeah, I also know him. Yeah.
Yep, you know him well. Most people also do. And we had a great chat about the extremities of Forge and how much effort and time it takes to really work it out and get the apps working and stuff like that. And after we had this long chat about what he's doing and how much time and dedication, he goes, but it's really only 5% of our DevOps business. And that's the point for Fun Inc. How can we help our people be happy, especially small to mid-sized marketplace partners? Because they've already got 100% of their workload. And if we're talking hours, it's probably 50 to 60 hours a week. And then suddenly something comes in and has to be 5% of that. And what do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So was it a topic at Atlas Camp, the RFC60? Was it a huge discussion point?
There was not an official presentation. And people were not really talking about it a lot. I think it's more the sales marketing, or let's call it the commercial division, something to worry about. I did hear, and that's why I'm a bit confused that RFC 60 is not separated into at least sub-chapters. Because what was talked about quite a bit around the coffee chats, the lunches, is the new additions that they're finally making a move on. And additions is a big deal because of how, one, a lot of people don't have a light version that's for free with their pro version paid. So they're already a bit, well, how do I deal with additions? Should I even do it? And then I think one of the conversations I was involved in that was insightful about monetization was, well, how do we do a price point? And people very black and white going, well, if you had a customer that's paying X for 10,000 users and they complain, but only 10 people use it, you just say in your pricing, well, it's still X for 10 users, right? So, yeah, that was a great conversation out of monetization, but the conference was.
I'm just searching in the notes from our tech lead who was also there. There was also, he wrote something with pricing so that there is a timetable for the first change. I think the first thing is what will come in April, the enterprise-wide licensing, that big enterprises don't need to buy an app, or instant cross-instance licensing, is it called? Yeah. That big ones don't need to buy an app 2 or 3 times, which, makes totally sense. I think in these RFC 60, there are a lot of good ideas, like these multi-instance licensing, also separating the JSM part, because that was always hard for apps which have just a Jira Service Management focus, that the whole Jira instance is licensed. I'm definitely not a fan of named user licensing because it's, you mentioned it already. Okay, 10,000 and just 10 users using it. So it means an app which costs today €1 per user per month will go to a lot more. So maybe 49 euros, 99 euros or whatever per user. But I think the biggest challenge is for the customer and not so much for the partner. I mean, what you said, it's not so complicated. Make the math and then done. But for a customer, it's super challenging because a customer needs to deal with different definitions of what a user is. And I see it on some of our apps. It's super hard. Let's take the out of office app. Super simple, creates a possibility to create rules. And other people then see, okay, you are out of office and your tickets are automatically reassigned. So what is now the user? Is a user the person who's creating the rule, or is the user the person who has a benefit because the ticket is automatically reassigned to another person and there's still progress in the workflow? So every marketplace partner now need to come up with a definition of what my user is, and this will be exploding for customers to understand and to maintain all the different definitions.
And we've seen it on Trello as well. What's the difference between a workspace member, a collaborator, a public view only, etc., etc.? That it's an interesting topic. What is a user? And if you look at any reporting app, well, the entire organization needs reporting one way or another. So even if someone's not a report analyst building the report, someone looks at it, or the report benefits the organization in somehow. And same with your not another stand-up app, NASA.
Yeah.
In terms of, well, by having these, we are somehow going into the core overall alignment of the organization, which means better performance for everybody, so everybody benefits.
Yeah.
So,
it is. I strongly believe. I totally can understand where it comes from. So there are a couple of big customers. They went to Atlassian and said it's stupid that I need to pay for this app all my users, and somebody from maybe procurement or whatever saw it, and then a lot of people start to react on it. But I think when Atlassian is going in this direction, then they are losing the beauty of simpliness. Yeah, the beauty is nowadays that I can go into the marketplace, I look for an app, I just put my user number in it, and I have the price. So and it's for the partner as same for the customer. So now it's a much more complicated process. It needs a lot more explanations. Cost of sales will increase. A lot more maintenance for the customer to maintaining this. It's simply more complicated. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, interesting. Good.
Yeah.
So a little bit back to your introduction. We are still in the introduction phase of this.
That's classic Andy. Straight into the business. Let's go. Talk strategy. Woo, come on.
Yeah. No, but that's good. So means Atlas Camp was for you, or you were definitely active in sponge mode to understand upcoming challenges for partners and so on, and to adjust your services, your offerings, and also have services and offerings to your customers. So what are you doing? What is funding doing different that you can do it? I mean, you also mentioned there were a lot of marketplace partners, also solution partners and so on. They're getting the same input. Yeah? I also can read the whole day.
I love
Atlassian partner pages, etc. I have also the same input. So what makes the difference?
I love answering this question because people, for me, my whole career was project management, change management within digital transformation, and very black and white. Project management is nothing more than common sense, if I'm really honest. Whether you're Prince 2 practitioner, ITIL, safe, fully qualified, or you're an SPC or an RTE 5 dot whatever, it's all common sense. And what I love is that time after time, working for companies, either as the internal consultant or the commercial project manager for a customer, you can put something on a silver platter. You can say, here's what you have to do. You can teach them it, you can train them on it, and yet still somewhere along the lines, because humans are fallible, I guess, it doesn't happen and something goes wrong. And then in particular, probably to Atlas Camp, but on the wider scale, we get a lot when our main core product at the moment in terms of offering is eventing and networking. And we kind of wanted to start with partnerships because we get a lot of questions about partnerships and how to run good partnership programs. But we decided to go with eventing because there's just so much demand. People don't understand it. They don't know what's going on. They don't understand why they have their return on investment. And so eventually you tell people what to do, you show them how to do it, and either they forget or they're too busy, or they're, again, that 5%, something comes in and you have to find 5% within your 100%, like Julian said. And so that's where we do it differently. I've never seen myself as a consultant, as someone, and you will remember this from Old Street. Yeah. I don't consult, fix a problem and walk away. I need to be part of that team and that organization. Whether I work 40-hour contracts or 5-hour-a-week contracts, it's really about going in and making that change permanently and helping people more in that agile sense, iteratively, and being part of the organization. I think that's where we are very different. If people go to Substack and check out our blog, The Fun Times from Fun
Mm.
Inc., they will see a lot of high value knowledge being shared, and we try as best as possible to make the actionable takeaways. So as a great example, there will be an Andy spam to quite a lot of people I know who weren't at Atlas Camp, probably won't see it online, talking about these new bond terms.
Yeah.
And we won't write a whole blog on it because we're not legal, so we can't give advice in that regard, but people need to be aware. Oh, bond terms, do I need to worry about it? And if it's too much of a worry about it, well, then they can come back to us and we can look at, what we can do for them services wise,
Got it.
to help them. Yeah.
So means it's when I need to summarize it, then I would say it's somehow experience from your previous roles, but also I mean, you're super well connected in the Atlassian ecosystem, so means the day-to-day input, what you're getting from Atlas camps or out of your work, etc., allows you to create shareable insights, and your customers getting access to this insights, and this can be somehow an accelerator. When they stuck in a process, or I also know how it is. So very often you say, okay, this is my task list. I'm working at the moment on the top 3 priorities. There are 10 other things which are also super important, but I simply can't do it. So is it also somehow a little bit out-tasking that you mentioned the event part? So that people doing, or the partner can come to you, okay, at least, dear Andy, please solve Team 25 for me. Create a concept, talk to the team, prepare everybody, etc.
And that links heavily as well as to what one of our differentiators is. We will work one-on-one with a customer, and then it's very expensive, like 15,000, 20,000 euros a month.
Yeah.
But we prefer to hold on to our core values, and 2 of them are affordable and scalable. So October, a lot of people worrying about Team 25 Anaheim because Vegas was very expensive. Barcelona came along, was very expensive. And at the end of the day, a lot of people care about the bottom line return on investment, which means customers. And so at the same time, we have about 30 people coming to us going, what should we do? Or how can we do it differently in Anaheim? We are lost. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying, oh, we could make a lot of money out of you and we'll just do one project with just you. No, we say, okay, we've designed a project that will teach people, educate people over 2 months. We'll have this rooftop party in Anaheim that's really focused on connecting with the right solution partners, the right customers. So we've got that little bit of sales development rep work going on beforehand.
Yeah.
There will be tickets available for other people who can just come, sure. But then there's also the after sales as well. So my projects previously and that of Theodora's and Sue's, we've always been very successful in our work because there's a beginning, there's a middle, and an end. And I think everyone gets too focused on the middle. I'm going to Anaheim. It's a one-time moment. We've got a blog in development now talking about return on investments. It talks about the bell curve of projects and when benefits really start and all that stuff. So keep an eye out for that one, everybody. And so, and so instead of charging one customer $60,000, we can go to 10 people, 10 groups and say, well, you take a tier 1, you guys take tier 2s, and the rest can take tier 3s. And no one's paying 60,000 because the whole total project, I think, is now 90,000 or something.
Yeah.
And that's the affordable and the scalable part. Those costs get split, but everybody benefits from it. We see when these moments happen, like RFC 60 or Barcelona out of the blue, we see a lot of people come to us with very similar questions, if not the same. And so the Venn diagram, Andy loves drawing diagrams with pen and paper. Yeah. And so as I'm in these calls, I'm like, oh, okay, you have a problem with sales and making the noise during the events. And then the next one comes in sales and partnerships. And I start drawing my nerdy Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
And then eventually I find the common solution. We discuss it internally. We come up together with a brain, through a brainstorm. What could a potential product be? And then we go back to people and we say, hey, don't pay us, just you one person on your own, $60,000 for maybe a month of work, because party's very expensive, our time's very expensive. No, we want to do a whole project for you for 3 months, and you get to divide the cost because other people want the same thing. So
that sounds really cool. I mean, we are also part of it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Very exciting.
But it is an interesting way to make a service scalable, because nowadays you see often, or not nowadays, also in the last couple of years, when you have a good service, let's say a training, then you record it, you put it on a platform like Udemy, whatever, or LinkedIn Learning, and the video is your scale. But as a trainer, you always can do one classroom training, and this is maybe limited to 15 people. And that was the scalability. And I worked many, many years in professional services. And the biggest problem of really good people who delivering amazing services was always a scale mostly one-to-one.
Yes.
So, and when you had one amazing engineer and you sold this person to your best and biggest customer, this engineer was gone for a year or 2 years because he was part of the project. He was included in the team. So,
and then after 2 years, he gets a good contract with said customer, and then they're gone permanently.
Yes, that happened relatively often. But in the previous company, that was also our value story for the employees, because it's, I mean, it was all pre-COVID part. So it means that was a time, I think the younger people will not remember this, where we went to customers and we were on site the whole time and made the project on site. So which meant for engineers very often from Monday to Friday, they travel to a customer site far away from their home place. And this for a year or 2 years. So it's nothing what people enormous like or love to do. So, and that was our value story to these engineers always, okay, that could be your Kickstarter. You have 2-3 hard years, but then probably you're getting a contract for, I don't know, BMW to be the lead engineer for their network or whatever. And then you have your dream job. And that was fine for us. So in parallel, we produced more engineers with good trainings and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting aspect. I'm really looking forward to your activities around Team 25.
We can't wait. It's very exciting. I see people, especially Theodora, building out the Trello boards for all of our collaborators. So every day when I finally have a chance to catch up on my phone, I see another 100 updates to the Trello boards. So it's going to be very exciting and very intense. So yeah.
Cool. Perfect. So you mentioned Theodora and Sue. So it means in Funning you're at the moment 3 people?
Officially 3 people, and we just use
unofficial 120 or
no, not yet. No, we're 3 people, and we have everything subcontracted where and when we need it to maintain our flexibility. So, but we will at some point start taking on long-term employees.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So I sent you a survey upfront in the preparation. It was mainly focused, and I do it with every guest, focused on meeting behaviors, mostly on stand-up meetings in this scenario, but a lot of questions are also eligible to other meeting types. So let's jump a little bit in this area, and let me share my screen quickly for that. So, because I think you gave us some super interesting answers. So the first questions are around journaling and preparing meetings and so on, and especially preparing stand-up meetings. And you have 2 interesting answers. So one question is, my update is properly structured into the 3 Agile questions, and you are more on the neutral part. But at the same time, you are the first person who said, my meetings stick to 50 minutes. So what's your superpower here for having a different structure and sticking to the 15 minutes, or maybe no structure and sticking to 15 minutes?
It's a very holistic answer to start with. In short, good for the TikTok extracts or the YouTube short. The there's that age-old fun story where an intern comes into a giant corporation, is very impressed with the CEO, and at a party or something, for the yearly party, they have 5 minutes with the CEO, and they ask the CEO, how are you so good at everything you do? And they say, well, it's all about, my knowledge and everything. And they say, well, how do you build that? And they say something like experience and experience and good judgment. And then they go, but how do I do that? And they go, the experience in bad judgment. So all of this 20 years of working in companies and everything has shown me how to approach meetings, journaling, and everything like that. So case in point, we have set 2 hours aside for Bring Your Own D podcast today, right? Because we know there's always a teething problem in the beginning. We want to have a little catch up and a chat, etc., etc. But the end result is not a 2-hour recording, right?
Yeah.
If you talk about daily stand-ups, and then I'm going to go back into my past a little bit. So a little bit, I didn't answer this with the past in mind. I was like, right now, me as Funman, co-founder and CEO of Fun Inc. And I thought, and now thinking about augmented reality, heavy R&D, we didn't have time for half-hour, 45-minute debates about one issue or two issues going wrong.
Yeah.
And so back then, the answer would have been 10 out of 5, more than best, when, with the Agile, with the 3 Agile questions of doing, of done, doing, blockers, whatever. And the meetings really were 15, whether we had 5 people in the room or 20 people in the room, very much that daily stand up.
Okay.
Was vital to stick to. And so if we talk about, my meetings stick to 15 minutes, I know there's going to be blah, blah at the beginning. There's always a little bit of delay. And so that meeting slot's 20. Same with if I need 30 minutes with someone, it's a 40 or 45 minute invite.
Yeah.
And scaling according to how much time and everything we need. So
that's really that's a good one. So means you add always some extra minutes for when it overruns, that you're also not stressing out the next meeting potentially when you have back-to-back plannings and so on. I read many years ago. I read a book that was a 4-hour week. I think the author was Tommy. Well, I don't know. I can share it later. It was interesting guy. He worked for HP many years, had a burnout, and then decided to do something completely different and created a life where he only needs to work 4 hours per week.
Yes.
And his magic for appointments was that, like classic ones, never join an appointment when there is no preparation or no agenda, etc. But he said for scheduling, never schedule a full hour and never schedule to the full hour. These classic blocks from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, etc. Do something like 2:13 to 2:44.
Yes.
Because then it looks like, oh, what's that? That's interesting. Okay, we need to stick in time. This person has only this available time.
I once had a really important group meeting on a program, and this is probably about 6-7 years ago, and I had so many different cultures to contend with. So in this program meeting, lots of middle management and directors who, they all want a voice, they all want to argue, right? So I'm like, this meeting should be no longer than 20 minutes. But I had French Parisian account managers with southern, like the Marseille and Bordeaux region managers. Now, it's one country, but those are 2 very, very different cultures. Yeah. But then I had Quebec French Canadians. Then I had Florida, East Coast Boston and New York, and then a few other Eastern European and European, all mixed in. And so I thought to myself, right, we only really need 20 minutes, but I know all of these people quite well now after 2 months of running on this program. What do I do? So the first thing was I put it in at 1/4 of the hour. I think it was 2:15 if I can remember correctly. And then what I did was say, these guys will argue until the ones who like to argue, until they're out of air and they're tired and they're done and they can't find the will to live anymore, they need half an hour. So in my mind, I didn't put it in the agenda. The meeting had a very good agenda, right? The bullet points, classic scheduling or whatever that I like to do. So I was like, okay, first half hour of highs and hellos and arguing and da-da-da. Then we're definitely going to need some updates from other people because they never update the Jira tickets because they're managers and they're like, I don't use Jira, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to have to do the updates for them quickly. So the real meeting is going to only start after 45 minutes. And so I scheduled it for 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then, trying to work out culturally how that stupid nonsense is going to work. And then, what was really fun is that I had some people in that meeting who also had PAs.
Yeah.
And so what it triggered was PAs paying attention, going, 1:15? No one books calls at 1:15.
Yeah.
Getting them going quickly on MS Teams internally. Hi, sorry, I'm the PA of so-and-so. Is this correct? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so the PA blocks the other 15 minutes so that they don't get some weird half-hour back-to-back meeting or 3/4 of hour, whatever.
Yeah.
And then what I also did was really, really smart. It did require some manual intervention, but I went on the invite, did a reply all about 20 minutes beforehand to say, don't forget this meeting starts at 1:15 the hour. And I sent it 5 minutes before the hour.
Yeah.
So if people are thinking, what's my next meeting? Or I don't have a meeting at 2 p.m. There was an email in the inbox going, you can't be late.
Yeah.
And I really leaned on the politics of the organization, because then you get everyone, if someone's late, that, if you're 2 minutes late, that gives that other VP a chance to go to your boss and complain, yeah, this guy's not taking this program seriously, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it was good. The amount of people that turned up late, panicking 3-4 minutes after,
yeah,
was brilliant. So, yeah.
I mean, you have funny situations then, or when I scheduled super weird slots, you had people who then joined at the full hour because it's normal. They coming out of one meeting, joining maybe at 2 minutes after 3, and they think they are late, but they are not late. And you can simply say to them, hey, grab a coffee, you have time, blah, blah, blah. That makes them more relaxed. Or people who are anyway tightly scheduled with back-to-back meetings, they're enjoying these 15 minutes, not having a meeting and coming much more relaxed to the meeting. Maybe they prepare also the meeting. Interesting. I need to check it with these 1:15. That's an interesting one.
But I've had some failures as well when I do 5 and 10 past. That slot, that really doesn't work. Then people are really not paying attention. So don't try those ones. I can tell people from experience. Nothing 5 and 10 minutes over.
Yeah, I played around with these different booking scenarios. At the end, it was more complicated to fit in other schedules. So I think that the whole world is booking 30 minutes or hour meetings. So when you come up with 1:15 or 1:13, etc., it creates, as you said, so much manual intervention in some cases. But it definitely makes a meeting interesting. So it was always my recommendation to my sales teams and so on. When you book a meeting with a customer, don't book it for an hour, book just 45 minutes, and best case starting not to the full hour, because then it looks like that it's a super important meeting and it's your only available time slot. So
I know someone over at Accenture who has to deal with a lot of program management that involves both the customers and their people, right? Because that's how Accenture is, right? Lots of operating partner stuff and whatever they call it. They need a full hour, so they book the hour, but they do 2 meetings, which I find I've never needed this scenario, but I think it is fascinating. There's the first meeting on the hour, 15 minutes, and it's just one instruction. Here is a link to the current documentation and weekly report. Use this time to get yourself up to date. And then they need at least 30, maybe 40 minutes to go through, what's coming up, who has concerns, what do I need to note down, blah, blah, to go away and delegate the tasks, come up with new answers. Yeah. And then the 5 minutes is just the classic corporate, get 5 minutes back in your time, mate, that sort of stuff. 5 more minutes of your agenda, as the corporate world likes to say. Well, I will give you back some time.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I was fascinated by that process because the first few weekly meetings in this new program of theirs, they said it was a disaster because people come in, they find themselves so important, oh, I'm too busy to read a document. But this person's older than me,
Yeah.
lots, like at least another 10 years experience more, and very good at handling people like that. And they just went, cool. So you can leave the call, no participation this week. And they've got the screen share on the weekly report, and they put an update. So-and-so is not prepared, has not participated in this meeting. And when you do that to someone publicly, no matter how important they are, it's like pulling their trousers down, right? In front of 1 million people in Central Station in New York and starting to laugh, at their choice of underwear that day. People hate that, everyone wants to be seen as a professional and this and that. And so what that created for that friend of mine is that everyone came having used that 15 minutes to read the weekly report. And they only needed 6 to 10 minutes to read the weekly report, right? And so that it changed the nature of their journaling, of their meetings very, very rapidly. And we're talking stuff that involves deals worth 50 to 200 million Australian dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly like, our tiny bug update release on that small app no one uses is delayed. No, it's like there's an equity partner somewhere going, where's my $5 million bonus because you guys are delayed, right? So
Yeah. The big ones. But
yes.
that's super interesting. I mean, that's one reason why we show in the NASA app when somebody hasn't prepared something. So then this person, no update, so means no preparation. This is a huge motivator to prepare the next time the meeting.
Yeah.
But I had also many years ago a funny situation. I had a Monday morning call. It was a management meeting with 10 managers in Europe and one worldwide manager, and it was called weekly management meeting. So 1 hour, and everybody was prepared in the meeting. That was not really the problem, but it was a company which was a distributor and a services company for a lot of other vendors. So they had over 1,000 vendors on the portfolio and a lot of these video conferencing vendors. So like Zoom and so on. So it was Cisco, WebEx, then 5-10 others. And they tried, or the PA of this global manager, I can't tell names, but it was super funny. So she was a strong believer in eat your own dog food. So we should use all these apps that we understand what we sell.
Yeah.
So means she changed every Monday the conference link. So, and that was the easiest way to make this meeting completely useless the first 20 minutes because people were in the wrong conference, not to know how to start, need to install drivers, microphones and cameras was not working.
Yeah.
But she thought it's a good idea to change it every week. So yeah. And that was expensive. That was super expensive. So 10 managers was not expensive because of my salary. It was expensive on other salaries.
Yeah.
But anyway, interesting. So yeah, so much about preparation. Also, the meeting link is important.
It is.
The next category is active listening. So, I mean, I know you are a good listener, and this is also reflected here in the survey. There's not so much need to go a deep dive here into this because on the next one there are some more interesting things.
Yes.
The value delivery of a meeting. So there are also here a couple of questions, and some of them, your answers are super close to the average. But then again, some of your answers are not completely different, but definitely there is a huge difference to the average answers. So let's go into this one. Handover and feedback loops are significantly easier than before. And I combine it because it's the same answer from your. Also focus on progress on goals is somehow a value out of meetings. And you said you disagree with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why is
It,
that the case? So
I think right now, I answered this very much from Fun Inc.
Mhm.
perspective right now. So nothing about my experience in the past and everything like that. And we are massively in the startup mode still.
Yeah,
We are nowhere near starting scalable growth, or let's say continuous growth, or steady growth, whatever you want to call it. It's very much in the we're not in just putting out fires mode, but we are definitely trying to find out how we take this big life goal and this
yeah,
great strategy we've come up with and actually go out and deliver it. So we noticed that, and that goes into the focusing on towards the goals and stuff. I on purposefully, before answering this, look back on our weekly founders meeting notes.
yeah,
There is a few topics that come back when they're a main project, and operationally it's a theme over
yeah,
3 or 4 weeks. On a more higher level strategy, stuff comes and goes as our attention comes and goes within the organization, how we're functioning and stuff like that.
yeah,
And so right now we are very busy finding our way, finding our rhythm. As a great example, we talked earlier about Atlas Camp, and when it first came up to my attention, I think this is mid-December, just before my holidays,
Mhm.
and a lot of partners asking if I'm going.
Mhm.
And a lot of the same partners who are also calling and asking for feedback on events and partnerships. So if they're already asking me, am I going to Atlas Camp? Maybe they want me there. Maybe they have questions. Maybe they want to speak to me or whatever.
Yeah,
And so we do our meetings. We have our weeklies. We did amazing. It was very intense, but for a whole day, we had workshop after workshop of end of year / financial year planning.
Mhm.
So in terms of the focus for the previous 3-4 months of business with the year coming, we were very, very focused. But then looking at that, and this is a little bit more, we talked about daily stand-ups, right? And
Yeah,
the agile approach. So looking at the weekly stuff, the attention disappears and something will come back.
yeah,
And then the handovers and the feedback loops, really, we are trying to hold on to a culture that's very religiously looking at, if there's not a Trello card, we're not going to talk about it. If there
okay,
is something to create or documentation to make, it needs a Confluence page. And pinging back and forth in a Slack thread is okay, but that's not an official part that's not where we work. That's where we just communicate and we have our comms.
yeah,
So I noticed that because we're so busy, handovers and the feedback loops are not yet easier than
yeah.
before. We're
Okay.
getting there, but every time I wait, I've got this awesome gadget on my Google Pixel for Trello, um, and it basically, I don't know if you can see it on that, but it's right there.
Yeah.
So it gives me the latest Trello card with the due dates, and it's red, 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 red.
Okay, good. Yeah, with
They're all
Theodora in the team, and she's creating tons of cards. So I think your app is busy. But
yeah.
there's an interesting part in it. So first of all, I have two tool recommendations for you for taking notes of a meeting. Not these classic note taker stuff what you have nearly in every meeting nowadays. I have a tool which is called Granola, like the
Mm-hmm.
superfood.
Yeah.
It's a note taker, a little bit like these Apple Notes thing. So you can take manually your notes, but it listens in parallel to your microphone and merge then your manual notes with the microphone stuff, just in
Um,
bullet points. Really cool
yeah.
thing. And then you can chat with the notes and so on.
Yeah.
And
I know Chris is using Chat GPT and other tools as well to
yeah,
make the best notes in the world. It's very impressive. Very
yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has definitely complex workflows now, but he also moved to
Yeah.
Granola because
Okay.
that's a really good one. And yet, the second interesting point, what I want to pick is just quickly because we are trying it. I don't know if you have the chance to also test it. So Slack has since a couple of months a Slack AI, and they want to be somehow the knowledge base of an organization. So I forgot now what Slack means, but it has also something to do with the company knowledge, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So it's a little bit like what you or it's totally against what you said. Yeah. So you said we're communicating on Slack. Well, I think it makes totally sense. Yeah. We are communicating on Slack, but it's really bad to use it as a knowledge base, etc., because it's hard to find things.
Yeah.
So we have tested the Slack AI, which should then create the knowledge base and so on. And so far, we have zero value out of it. It's a really expensive experiment. So do you believe that tools, communication tools, with all the AI things and so on, can be an automatic knowledge base, or let's say your documentation for your work or for your plans and so on?
Yeah.
Will it go in the next months more and more in this direction that you don't need to do it manual anymore? Or
I'm not. We use it primarily for our comms, but I can see already within our systems where it is a knowledge base for us, because the important threads get pinned so that people can find them straight away. Oh, we're working on events. Go to a pin. I can't find the Anaheim stuff. Oh, because in the console you see all Anaheim/Atlassian team has its own channel team.
Yeah.
So already there is a knowledge base of how are we central. So, and everything's integrated as well. So if someone is on Trello and they're like, did we discuss that 2 weeks ago? You'll see a Slack attachment, and you can already see the first few words of that Slack thread. So it makes perfect sense about Slack being a center of a knowledge base. We right now, anyone who us three as founders and the subcontractors who work for us know that Trello is where we do day-to-day task management, updates, deadlines, whatever, and have that overview per either team or per the project we're working on. Confluence is where we create, maintain, manage, and store all of our creativity, everything, all the projects we're working on, but also stuff like contracts, legal, hiring people, job descriptions. But that's not where we store our big documentation, the big PDF stuff or whatever. So we use Google Drive, and we have a Google Suite, and blah, blah, blah. So we have a very structured way of working, and saying Slack's where we do comms and we ping, probably not 100% correct, because we already have, for example, Google Drive is connected in Slack. So you can also do stuff in Google straight from there. We haven't got Trello integrated in such a way you can also do your updates from Slack straight into Trello. But yeah, Slack is way more than just where we ping. So
cool. It's for a small company, it's already a relatively good organized but also complex infrastructure environment. It's amazing.
In the early stages of my career, probably 10 years ago or something, I was making quite a good salary working for corporates that just didn't have their systems, their processes and everything in place. And so I spend weekends as my hobby putting processes in place for funding. So yes, we're very complex, because I don't want to have to in 10 years time pay junior Andy a lot of money to fix it.
That's a good one. I think I mean we both worked in a time where it was normal that you got, when there is a new process or something like that, you got an email with a PDF attachment. You stored the PDF attachment in a folder on your notebook, or it was somewhere on the corporate network. There was a SharePoint. But it was always a mess to working with the versions of this PDF and process changes, and then you missed a mail and so on. I mean, it all makes sense to have more and more of these tools.
It does.
Interesting. So thanks a lot for answering the questions in the survey. Let's go to the next point of the podcast. So the podcast is called Bring Your Own Direction. So it means you as a guest need to bring your own topic, what you would like to discuss it, make it easier for me in the preparation when
Absolutely.
you bring a topic.
Yeah.
So, what is your topic? What is your D?
My D is diligence.
Okay,
It's
why?
because first of all, I used to love, and I still do. I prefer more discipline. And my wife found, when I was talking to our kids about having discipline in their own lives, their music, their hobbies, their swimming, they're very good at swimming,
Yeah,
and discipline. She found it quite a negative word for such
yeah.
young children. And she also found it a little bit too English private school, which is obviously where I come from. And so she said, I think a better word is diligence. And I was like, yeah, it is actually, because discipline also in English, I mean, classic English language, our words have 5 different meanings. So it could be discipline. I'm disciplined that I do my work every day in such a way, but you can also be disciplined, like, someone will punish you or something
Yes,
like
yeah,
that, right? Whereas diligence, it doesn't have that connotation, right? Diligence is you are focused on what you want to do. You hold yourself accountable, hold others accountable. I struggle very much, and we talked about that in the previous segment, with the focus.
yeah,
What am I doing today? And the Trello cards that have all these red missed due dates. And so diligence is very important for me. I think a lot of people in this world would find their lives much easier to manage, because I know I do for sure, when we're diligent. So waking up, for example, I try to stay diligent with my fitness.
yeah.
For 3 days, I'm really good. And then it's Sunday evening, I'm stuffing my face with beer and chocolate. And I'm like, I wasn't very diligent Thursday through Sunday. And then it's a whole retrospective. Why not? Don't know. Okay, wake up Monday, great gym session.
So you
Tuesday,
do a
great.
retrospective with yourself then.
I
So
do, yeah, weekly. Yeah, yeah. It's quite funny. I have a physical notebook I write in every day for
yeah,
gratitude and my goals and stuff like that, because it's easier for me to do it daily in a little bit than
yeah,
one big monthly or yearly thing. And then with that diligence, and I can't. It's interesting. I talk about fitness suddenly and not work, but going through a retro, I realized that I'm getting older. I have these weird birth defects in my body from neck down to the tailbone,
yeah,
and so with older age, I can't do every day, 5 days, Monday through Friday, and then the weekend is doing all this, housework and what we
yeah.
call in English DIY, right? Like
Yes,
building and stuff.
yeah. I also need to do it every weekend. So
Yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. We both have very nice houses, but they need a lot of work.
yes, for sure.
For sure. And it's funny I mentioned fitness now, because literally just last week my knees were completely blown out, and I realized I was doing too much cycling in the cold, even though I had the thermals on and all the
Yeah,
whatever. And then my exercises at the gym, even though they were the sports physio exercises I've learned from my physios, I was doing too much, and I wasn't
yeah,
giving myself enough break and stuff like that. And coming back to why it's relevant for diligence, why diligence is relevant for work. If we get too stuck in doing the same thing time and time again, we're so determined, another D word, to be disciplined and make it work, that we actually maybe don't take a step back and realize, oh, we're overdoing it. So now my fitness regime is Monday, Wednesday, Fridays is proper gym days. And then
yeah,
Tuesday and Thursday, I just need a short walk around in the morning or a quick cycle through the neighborhood.
yeah.
And that diligence is helping me understand myself. And that's why I mentioned the notebook as well. I'm very diligent with that, writing in it every day. And it takes 2 minutes,
Yeah.
but it helps me
What are you writing
understand.
down? So is that what you achieved or where you failed
So I write.
today or what?
It's really interesting. So I write in what I'm grateful for. I've learned this from 2 years ago. I did this health regime with my chiropractor. He has another business alongside his chiropractic called Ironclad. Ironclad Immunity. With his partner. She's more focused on the meditative part. He's more focused on nutrition, health, and stuff like that. And they have this thing called the Tome. I don't do what they were doing during the program. I've kind of come up now with my own thing that works for me. But I write down my gratitude. That definitely comes from them. They talk about gratitude a lot.
Okay.
What made me happy during the day, because I'm so negative and so pessimistic, my whole day is that's shit, I don't like that, da, 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 da. So when I have a happy moment and I think, oh, I had an awesome recording session with Björn, just quickly write it down, right? And then I have my end of day goals and, how was my day, that kind of stuff. Just short summaries that throughout the day, it keeps me focused, it keeps me diligent on what's important in life. And if I look at my 20s and my 30s with my career, it was 10 to 15 years of what I mentioned about the fitness of like pushing too hard. I must make this work. My 20s and 30s was every day, Monday through Friday, even working Saturdays in my own time because I had to make it work. And I was disciplining myself, but I wasn't being diligent, And now in my 40s, I've never read the book, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, but I'm pretty sure if I did, I'd be like, yeah, this is my life in my 40s. Like I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
More focused, more diligent. So that's my big D word for today for our podcast in diligence. Yeah.
That's super interesting. I mean, especially these daily behaviors, I find it super difficult. I mean, I'm also a person. I'm not a good planner, so I'm also not good to stick to a behavior or to implement new behaviors. I'm really good in staying with old and bad behaviors. But I did 1 year. It was after a training, and a little bit to align to your process. It was a training about getting things done. And I did it a full year, the whole structure with the also 3-hour review of your week,
Right. Yeah.
sorting everything, emails, post stuff, or conversations, sorting this in buckets and then sorting it in tasks and so on. And it was really, really cool. I liked the time because it helped me a lot to have a free mind. So it was
this is so
with these release when you write down everything. And that was the first part in the training. The first part in the training was sitting down for hours, and the task was write down everything what is in your mind. About your tasks, about your life goals, about the book what you want to read, the movie what you want to watch. Simply write it down. So till your brain is empty. And this was an amazing relief. And this was cool because you had this situation every week then. So, but it was really hard to stick with this behavior, especially when you then switch jobs and so on. And funny wise, the whole Atlassian Jira stuff and so on killed it a little bit, because all getting things done tools are focused on people who are working alone, not in teams.
Yes.
So it's an amazing structure when you work alone, but it cracks immediately when you need to use something like Jira or something like that.
It does. It really does. That's why we love, part of our big philosophy is talking and teaching people. We now have some good cash flow and budgets to travel the world and visit some events and do some speaking. We focus heavily on the 3 Ps, people, products, and processes.
Yeah.
How they all need to be aligned. Okay, well, how do we align them? We talk about the 3 Cs. So communication, collaboration, and camaraderie, which is like brotherhood, sisterhood, or to be super diverse, siblinghood, I guess, nowadays. And so that is really core to Fun Inc. And then maybe we start introducing the 3 Ds as well. But what you were saying about the intensity of emptying your brain and writing everything down, I also heard a little bit of the frustrations in the voice of doing it all the time. And then that's when you go from being diligent about something into discipline. And I think discipline is got a big punishment connotation on it. Diligence is when you can, and that's another part of that Ironclad immunity that works so well. And they've got this cool thing called that's from somebody else completely, but they like to teach about it, called Ho'oponopono. I won't explain it now, it takes too long, but basically it's like a forgiving process, forgiving yourself, but also forgiving someone else. Discipline, no one's being forgiven. It's just pure punishment constantly and breaking yourself.
Yeah.
Diligence allows the freedom of forgiving yourself. And actually, I want to show something really fun. So right now, people see the roll-up banners,
Yeah.
beautiful shelving and everything, nice wall. It has taken me 3 years to get to this point in this not new anymore.
Yeah.
Taken me 3 years to get to this point. I did the wall in the summer, and then it sat blank forever. In the Christmas period, I took time off and finally got, these. I'll show the camera, these beautiful frames and everything on the wall, and
Yeah.
the roll-up banners up. But if I show, if I show next to me, there's a load of crap here. My skateboard that I want hanging on the wall beautifully, that's not done.
I mean, it is on the ceiling, so
There's boxes and junk down there on the floor. So yeah, I try to be diligent about it, but I also try not to get upset and angry with myself when it doesn't happen. So,
yeah. In fact,
yeah.
when you mentioned diligent in the beginning, the first thing what got into my mind is when you have done once a merger and acquisition, you're definitely have a phase which is called due diligence. So
Yeah.
and this says that's a hard phase. It's a necessary phase, but it's whoa.
Yeah, it's funny because you have been involved heavily with mergers and acquisitions as the investor, right?
Yes.
I was senior project manager for mergers and acquisitions of a very large US corp who did a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And I can tell you, if someone came to me and said, could you be the project manager again of a merger and acquisition? When we do the due diligence phase, there will be a lot of discipline. Because the amount of project, it was really fun. I was the project manager for the more rollout phase, not the salesy business transaction parts, like when due diligence happens. So I would get these projects that's like, oh, in that city in southern Belgium, we've bought this company and you have to go handle it. And the first thing that happens is walking in and go, hey, here's the project plan, be nice to you, try and speak French, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And them just going, all of this is incorrect. And you're going, the contract says this is what we're doing. And they're like, nope, that's not the agreement we had in a verbal conversation over dinner with whoever sold, has bought our company from us. And now you're here trying to change everything. And it's like, oh, and you start deep diving in, and you're like, no one did the diligence. No one did due diligence. There's nothing. It's blank. There's an empty form not filled in. So that's a funny one to throw me a curveball and go, no diligence, discipline.
Yeah. No,
someone will be punished.
But that was definitely the first thing what came into my mind. And then because you explained in the beginning, it has not the negative touch of discipline.
Yeah.
So shit, I have the first thing in my mind is a negative thing, but it's okay, good. Super interesting because I think the most interesting part is when somebody meet you for the first time, potentially, or it's very often on an event, and very often it's maybe late. So the first guess, or it definitely wouldn't be my first guess, that you are, for example, doing something like diary, or writing down every day. So what happened, and so on.
Yeah.
Interesting, super interesting, cool.
You made me think of something that's quite fun. At Old Street, and then I hired her as well for Fun Inc. We worked with an amazing freelance designer called Claire Rojek. I think she pronounced it in English. I think the name is Polish of origin. But anyway, she, at one point for Old Street / Tempo, I was just traveling all over the world, 2-3 cities a week, sometimes a whole continent in 1 week, one city, but it's like it's the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And we met up in Brighton. We were with the Jexo peeps, right?
Yeah.
Others had joined. We'd all converged because there was an event, and we had dinner the night before. And she goes, Andy, how do you do it? And this is in a period of my life where I am more on the discipline. I hadn't done that ironclad immunity.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't writing stuff down as much as I wanted to, no creativity, and it was just go, go, go. And I just looked at her and I went, I think I'm just permanently burnt out, but I just ignore it. I think that was my answer. And somebody just the other month asked me, Andy, how do you do this? And the answer was awareness. I write stuff down. I meditate. I go to the gym. I'm very careful with what I eat until 9 p.m. and then I'll have a rage binging session. The answer is way more methodical. There's a method to it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So complete difference as well. People will be like, wow, this guy with all of, and it went back to what I said earlier about the CEO with the bad judgments, right? And building experience.
Yeah.
I have 17 plus years of doing it the wrong way. And now I've got 2 to 3 years of doing it a better way, but not quite perfect.
So that's cool. Perfect. Thank you very much. So it's a good point to the next and also last category in this podcast. So it's a 6-0-12 category. So 3 questions to you. Let me share the screen again that we have the visuals from the NASA app as well for it. Here we go. So perfect. So yeah, it fits really well because the first question is, what was a challenge which you have faced recently where you couldn't find an existing playbook? Because nowadays you have for nearly everything somehow a guide, a manual, or you ask ChatGPT, write a playbook for me, how to do this stuff, and so on. And your answer here is getting all the tiny details for setting up a corporate organization. So, and especially in the right order, what I'm reading here. So what's the story behind this?
I think partly because we were changing the fun man into the fun company, and so we were already very busy. There were existing projects that we needed to round off because they were on my freelance company. At the same time that new leads are coming in, and we're trying to start over that springtime already, show ourselves as an organization. And so the day-to-day business was really running already. We actually did the first contract ever through my freelance company officially on the books, so to say, right? Accounting wise and legally.
Which is always a challenge.
Always a challenge. And I definitely know there was a trepidation of, is this even going to be successful? What's the point of spending thousands? I mean, I think I'm a little bit odd to publicly say, I think I'm out of pocket 60,000 with the whole everything now, like in total. And I had loads of shares in other companies that got heavily liquidated very, very quickly. And I was lucky they were up thanks to a certain orange someone in America when I liquidated them. So yeah, there was a trepidation of, is this even going to be successful? Should I start this? And so in order to prove myself and to prove, at the time it was just Suze in the company, Theodora was sabbatical and wasn't involved. We did a project to see that it would be successful. And then, the trepidation combined with, how do you start a corporation? How do you go from this freelancer? Freelancers in Holland have their own setup, and it's very easy to just go to Chamber of Commerce, the tax authorities, and go, I now have a company. And they're like, great, cool. The corporates is totally different. You definitely need your lawyers from day one, your financial advisors from day one, etc., etc. And there's a lot of websites and a lot of advice, but it's old school inbound marketing. So you get 5% of the knowledge, and then it's book a meeting to learn more, right?
Yeah. Okay. Good. The classic. And then you get a link for a Telegram group and or whatever. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so it was difficult running a project that was very intense alongside. Right now, as we were going through that due date thing, I looked at one and I was like, oh my God, I didn't respond to the financial advisors last Friday. That's like 6 days delayed now.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. And there's a lot. And then even when I thought, and I'd done big announcements internally. By then, Theodora was slowly like, I think I'm interested. I think I want to be a co-founder. This is like over the summertime.
Yeah.
We're registered. We have a corporate. Da, 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 da. I start archiving all the documents I'm receiving from the lawyers and this and that. Da, da, da.
Yeah, you don't
And
need
then,
it anymore till you sell the business. So I think that was your fault.
exactly that. And then, so when I went to do the bank accounts, I scanned very quickly the 6 bullet points, and they said what you need. What I hadn't noticed is that there was a section underneath on the confirmation webpage that had you might also need, and then there was specifics for different types of organizations. And very luckily, half an hour before I left in the car to go sign for these accounts and everything, I'm like, yes, I have my passport. Yes, I have the deeds. Yes, I have this and that. And, da, 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 da. And then suddenly I click on it, and then suddenly I notice one of those not unfurled sections says, you might also need this if you're a corporate. And I click on it, and it goes, an official organogram. And I'm like, oh.
What is an organogram?
It's a Dutch abbreviation for organization diagram.
Yeah, okay.
Which is funny because they're not Dutch words, but it is literally the 2 English words put together. Dutch use it a lot, organogram. It's basically an organization chart.
I think organogram sounds like that somebody says it to you in a hospital. So we need to do an organogram of your...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's those small parts that just you don't know, and because someone like a lawyer hasn't said, oh, by the way, don't forget ABC now. That's on you, not us. You haven't paid us for that. Yeah. You don't have the playbook, and you think, great, everything's registered. We're legends. Move on. Yeah. I made a huge mistake with the finance. I mean, I think at one point I'll just be like a Dutch limited liability company guru or something and ask people for shares in their companies to work for free for them, because there's so much small stuff. I went to do the first quarter taxes myself because I had a good financial bookkeeper.
Yeah.
But it's like, I talk to them once a year just to make sure I'm submitting everything correctly. So I needed some proper tax advisors, highly qualified people. But before I met with them, I did the first quarter on my own, and I'm trying to log into the tax system, and I'm like, something's not right. I can't log in. And it only dawned on, and no one told me, and this is probably why you need financial advisors from day one, which was a massive mistake. I need something called e-identification.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to sort out. It took me 2-3 days, but in that moment, I'm panicking like, hang on a minute, why has no one done this for me? I've paid a lot of money to different people, and it's actually very easy to set up myself. Not a problem. But again, there's no playbook saying do this, do that. So
yeah. No, it's. I mean, I founded 2 times my own company, but it was also more freelance stuff. Similar in Germany, that's super easy. It's one document, and then you're free to go. But doing it proper, which is in Germany it's a GmbH, which is the same like the LLC. There's a lot more, and I think that's what a lot of founders need to be aware of, that this costs money because you need to pay lawyers and consultants for doing it. And I mean, you mentioned roughly 60K. When I look to startups where we invested and how much money they spend on it, yes, it's always around the 50K. It's maybe sometimes 30K, maybe sometimes 70, but plan with 50K, dollars, euros, whatever. This is needed for doing all the paperwork, having the proper lawyer, the proper consultants. And then, as you said, you also need to read all the stuff and need to figure out by yourself what's missing.
And I have to say, I don't think it's lawyers or tax advisors or anyone being tricky and trying to get you to sign contracts with them. People come to me and ask about process re-engineering because I've done it my entire career, 20 years.
Yeah.
And when people say, oh, what's the playbook on process engineering? I mean, there's some bullet points and I can teach them and I can train them. But the lifetime of work, there's no playbook for lawyers. There's no playbook for notaries. There's no playbook for accountants. And even in their world, everything every year changes all the time. we had some discussions about what an ideal investment start is for Fund Inc. And it was 10 more than you'd advised way back when. And it's like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a notary. Go to all those people and be like, day one,
find a good one first. I think that's where I think that the major difference is, I mean, you can't judge who's good or bad, but what I figured out, and I think last week Jack was here in the podcast, and he had exactly the situation. You need, especially a lawyer. You need a lawyer who understands what this person need to understand what you want, because you can do it founding a company with all the needed contracts on a complicated, very detailed way, or you can do it on a relatively straightforward. Let's take the best practices. They should be fine. Then 90% is done, and let's talk about the 10%.
Exactly.
And very often, from my experience, lawyer companies are not asking these questions because, hey, they're making their money when the 90% are individual. So you need to find a company where you can say in the beginning, especially as a founder, no, let's take the best practices. Let's take what 95% of the companies are doing here in this country. Let's talk about 5% individual stuff, and that's fine in most of the cases. So
exactly. Very practical example. I looked loads for. We've got a very good notary here, thanks to moving here 3 years ago. So locally, there's a good notary. I reached out to loads of lawyers. None of them really responded. One of them did respond, and it was the weirdest phone call ever. I even gave them a really bad Google review on Maps because they just phoned up and it was a whirlwind of breathless, like, yeah, we don't handle that kind of stuff. You need to go to this company. And I'm like, well, stop, hold on. Who are you? Where are you calling from? What company? And they just couldn't hang up the phone quick enough. And I was like, man, that is so weird. And so in that week, when I'm trying to find lawyers, the week passes. One person was, I mean, to be fair, like, I don't think it's rude to say super unprofessional. I'll never approach them again. But yeah, I lost that whole week trying to find someone. So the next week is reaching out to known business associates who could help me. Well, they're busy. They will get back at some point. And then finally, one of them got back and was like, oh, we use, like, for our companies we set up under our umbrella corp. We use these lawyers in LIDA. They're amazing. Yeah. Once I was finally in contact with them, it went really quick and they helped and they weren't too expensive. But yeah, again, that week
recommendations.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You know, that week it was, I want to find good lawyers. And that week turned into 6-7 weeks before I finally had a date set for 2-3 months later to go and get everything signed.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the biggest mistake in founding something or merchant acquisitions. There's always the situation that people coming up. I mean, you also know it from Old Street. Hey, that's done in 1 month. No, it will take 6 months. It always takes 6 months. So you can't found a company quick. You can't sell a company quick or buy a company quick.
No.
It always takes many weeks, and all the crazy plans of let's do a shortcut here, etc., will generate trouble at the end. And whatever. Okay, cool. So means you have your company now, you have your bank accounts, you have also your organogram, and not the one from the hospital. So what did you face in the next 6 months? So what is upcoming stuff here?
We are super busy with Team 25 Anaheim. And this is a little bit of a context. I used to love bashing Atlassian, right? As a famous community leader and someone who is working for marketplace partners and other companies as well in and outside of Atlassian, who have lots of money. So you can't be touched. You know, you're working for these. I wrote a list of everyone I've worked for over the last X years. In the top, in the top 15 of marketplace, there's so many ticks, and I'm like, oh, this is quite cool. And so I had like kind of this immunity that people had to put up with me, especially Twitter, especially my rants about data center. But I
Yeah.
kind of changed my tune recently because I realized, if I want to achieve together with our founders, if we want to achieve that life goal, changing the business world to create a world of happy humans, you can't please everybody, but we can try and help everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Team 25 Anaheim project for us is all about with this rooftop party, because Atlassian has a strategy. It's upsetting a lot of people, but diligence. You've got to have a strategy. You've got to know who you are and what you want. So Atlassian is cloud, enterprise, premium, Rovo, Atlassian Intelligence, Loom, right? And
Yeah.
if you fit in that world, you get an automatic invite to the best party in technological history. If you want to be part of it and you're willing to adapt, what's the Bear Grylls one? Like adapt, survive, improvise, or something, that meme from that survival expert.
Yeah.
Then you will get a seat at the table from time to time and you're welcome. And if you don't want to be part of that and you want to complain about them all the time, well, you can be there, but
You're probably not invited, or you're
no, you're there and you'll be able to see the party going on, but definitely no seats at the table. And what I find really interesting is that a lot of people see it. I've mentioned it a few times, like, black and white, black and white. I think people see it too black and white. So I've given 3 categories just now.
Yeah.
The Atlassian way, the try to adapt to the Atlassian way, and the you're going to get forgotten about way. And again, we label everything, right? We make it too black and white. And I think people go, oh, the sponsorship for Team 25 Anaheim, it's so expensive. It's more expensive than last year. Da, 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 da. And so they just give up in that moment and they don't think there's another way because that's the way business is done. We can't change it. But no, it can be done differently. There's ways to look at it. And that's what we're busy with the next 6 months is not only getting that Team 25 Anaheim is a great way, and we talked about it extensively in the beginning, how to productize managed services or consulting services. And so multiple people who either there's 2 collaborators in our project that are sponsoring team, but they want to learn, they want to do something different, they want to be part of something else. Yeah. And they're happy to pay for that service. Then there are others who are too small. They can't afford to sponsor a whole booth for 3 days, and maybe they don't see the value of sponsoring a kiosk just for 1 day on the expo floor. Yeah. And so they want to look at other ways of doing everything. And that's what the next 6 months is about. We need to be very successful in this one project, but at the same time, we're working behind the scenes on our products and we call it productized managed services. It's a bit of a weird one. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes totally sense, and especially these conferences. And I think yes, you can blame Atlassian all the time about the organization of team and the pricing and so on. And there's definitely some true points. So I also personally think that the organization can be better. And this is super time consuming. I mean, when you sponsor it and when you take somehow a proper boost, you have minimum an investment of a 5-digit number, which is relatively clear. But the time investment is an important one as well. And you need to prepare, you need to invite your customers and so on. So you have a lot of time investments, what you want to do. But then there are a lot of needed maintenance tasks, which should be simplified and should be easier. I think that's the cool thing on your product, that you take a part away from this. Yeah. So when somebody says, hey, let's organize, or in the past, somebody said to me, hey, let's organize a party at the team event. So I was always thinking, good idea. And it was not so much about the money. I was more afraid about the maintenance tasks and organizing it. And this in parallel to team and in parallel to the day-to-day business. And taking this away and being at the same time a part of it, and getting in addition these consulting services from your side is a super interesting approach. I think.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's your plan in 12 months then?
Yeah, more of this portfolio of productized managed services. The uptake on team.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. As long Atlassian is doing 2 team events per year, you are anyway busy. You don't need other products, or?
No, yeah, technically no. There's also rumors already within Atlassian themselves. Barcelona is coming, so there's definitely that to work off of.
Yeah.
We just, I don't know what it is. No matter how hard I've worked in my entire career, I've never had huge salaries. I haven't become a millionaire, and I don't think I care about that part anymore. The money side of it. I'm like, if I have enough money to survive, that's good enough for me. And so that gives us the freedom, and Theodora and Sue's share in that. Like, we don't want to become some bougie exited founders. I don't know if you've seen a particular person who was bought out by Atlassian a few years ago, if you've seen their blog, but they're very bored with all their multi-millions of dollars.
No, I think I haven't seen it. Send it to me.
No, I'll send it to you. But their blog's crazy. It's just like, oh my gosh, we don't want to end up like that. We want to really do something good with the world.
Yeah.
And yes, we have financial obligations and desires and what we like to do, but as long as I earn that minimum, that means I can go on a decent holiday twice a year with family, and I can keep my cars being fixed and driving and whatever.
Yeah.
And paying the bills. That's good enough for me. And so it's really not about the money, and that's when we can jump in and go. For example, one prospect, we didn't sign the contract in the end, but we said, what's a good revenue share model or commission based, right?
Yeah.
So if we do this work for you for 6 months, it should cost X. But if we give you a huge discount and it goes down to Y, how many months are you willing to share a fixed percentage of your EBITDA or your operating profit or something until you pay us back for basically consulting services that helps you have that growth, right?
Yeah.
We're way more interested in helping people help them solve their problems than saying, we need to charge you 20K a month. So
I mean, that's a super interesting approach because it means your services are somehow binded to the success of it. So it means as a customer, I find it super interesting because I can spend 20K on your consulting services, but then the risk is completely on me. I spend 20K, maybe it works, maybe not. The 20K are definitely gone. So when I need to pay, let's assume 60K, but this is out of new generated revenue or new generated margin, and this is exactly aligned to your activities, that's, from my opinion, a much better deal for both sides. It's an interesting approach because it takes risk away from me. You take the risk as Fun Inc., but your share is also bigger when it's successful. So
I'm in that DISC matrix. There's like a whole test or something. I've done it 4 times at 3 different companies. And every time, for people, it can change over time, which is interesting. It's a bit like the 16 personalities one. Those can change over time. So can the disc. And what's really interesting is that I have all 4 results from the last 15 years I've done them, and I am almost off the chart D, red, results oriented. It's quite interesting learning that about myself, that I would much rather work for a great customer who's very well known in the world, and we do something that makes them go, they helped us and it was amazing. And it doesn't matter if we earn 3K, 10K, as long as we can pay the bills, right, for the whole company and everyone who works for us. I still talk about a project, my first ever big digital transformation project with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, which is now 2006. That project basically revolutionized the way their entire supply chain was for world business class wine.
Okay.
I still talk about it. Was a 6-month project. I still talk about it. That success, that amazingness, and that result, right? I was earning 500 euros a month as an intern, and I think if they had gone to like an EY or a Capgemini type, that project was worth 50 grand a month to someone like Capgemini,
Yeah,
and they got it for 500 a month. This young whippersnapper who needed a really strong management internship to help him prove all of his, the thesis and the stuff I'd been doing at university in the past.
yeah.
They got it for peanuts, right? But they didn't get a peanuts result. And I still talk about it all the time, and I use it. I use it as an example with customers, to elaborate how to change processes, people use products correctly and stuff. Very results oriented, and the result is often money, but I think there's way more. We've just done customer success case blogs with both Aptis and BitKraken, who are marketplace partners. I mean, I know how much we charged them. Obviously, we made the invoices and we sent them out. But looking at those customer success stories and going, oh yeah, what a great job. Yeah, whether it was 200K or it was 40K or whatever,
I mean, I had the topic last week with Jack as well. So you could have the motivation. It was many years a salesperson. The strongest motivation for a salesperson is money. Relatively easy. So it was one former boss of me explained it in an interview where there was a classic question. Okay, what is your motivation? And then you do blah, blah, blah. I want to work with customers. I want to solve their problems. So young salesperson. And this person then in the interview said to me, it's still not the right answer. You need to say money. So that's why. And it's true. I mean, that's why you're doing sales. You have a basic salary, you have a commission. Right. When you're good in your job, your commission is amazing. But you have also all the other motivational points. And with Jack, last week, we had the point that, and I also see it in our team relatively often, that developers can be also super proud when they developed something or created a product, what millions of people using every day to solve their problems. So it's not about the money or how much revenue is or what's the price tag on the product, or is it a premium product? No, simple, this feeling of starting the day and knowing, okay, a couple of million people already using my product today. And this is, I think, cool on product things. And I'm really looking forward to talk to you in the future because you make managed services as a product.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to understand how this will evolve in the next couple of months and years. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, we even gave it a good marketing title to fit the SaaS, PaaS world. We're calling it consulting as a product. So it's CAP. CAP. Yeah. It's like SaaS or PaaS or EAS. We're CAP. Consulting as a product.
I mean, it's when you found the way to do it on a subscription-based level.
Yes. It's funny because it's funny you mentioned subscription-based model. One thing that so many people have asked me what makes me successful, but then they focus on the money part. They see the success with projects and stuff, but they're like, what makes you successful with the money part? And I realized over time, it's about retention, retainer fees, or getting the immediate next project, a different project to solve or something or whatever. And so I've found out years ago, the best thing to do as a services firm is to have subscriptions. Exactly like apps, technical products and stuff, right? So many people are now offering annual, right? Every time you install something, you get your free trial, and it's like, buy now, get 2 months free. But if you don't click yes on that one, the next email is buy now on annual 50% discount. And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, right,
Yeah.
And that's the same with this consulting as a product for us that eventually will make the right marketing for it. It's like, we can do a super duper expensive project for you for 6 months that will completely change everything and make you amazing. You pay 100K for it, or you sign a 2-year contract, for only 150K.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally, I think, when we finally worded everything and we started writing conference pages about it to help us remember what we're talking about and doing some creative work. Yeah, that's when we realized we were just copying technical subscription models for apps and platforms and stuff. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is a really good idea. I think it has definitely the challenge of then what you mentioned in the beginning, scalability.
Yes.
I mean, the benefit of all these tech subscriptions is it scales limitless. That's not the case for services and people and so on. But yeah, for sure. I mean, in the good old times, it was simple called support contract. Yeah. So when you did a project, then you sold afterwards a support contract, which enabled the customer to call you when they have questions afterwards. So
exactly.
it's new wine in old barrels or something like that.
Stuff like that. I had one prospect last autumn phoned us up and they were like, "Oh, this revenue share idea is amazing, cool, let's go." And they had loads of questions, obviously, financially, how would this all work? And they kept coming back because they realized like the percentage couldn't be from revenue.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, what about, after some taxes and stuff like that, or paying some people?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, cool, let's look at it. They went away, they came back and they're like, can it be after can it be after EBITDA? So I don't know how some countries pronounce it, but like the EBITDA.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, sure, cool. So they went away, their finance officer puzzled away again and came back and they were like, can it be after all the sales commissions and the operating, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God.
And we were like, sure. So they come back a last time and they're like, we worked it out.
We do revenue. Or what?
Sorry?
We do revenue.
No. Even better. They came back and they said, we worked out we would end up paying you a certain percentage for 25 years. I was like, okay, cool. You want to sign the contract? And the owner of the company's like, I will be long retired. I'm not, they were like older. Yeah. They're like, so we pay you for 25 years. Yeah, it's fine. Let's go. They're like, for a 9-month project? Like, yeah, it's cool. Let's go. Subscription model. Let's go. 25 years sounds great. And they were like, and for us, it's like, that's where it's affordable and scalable for the customer, but it becomes very scalable for us. I mean, imagine 100 projects over 5 years, paying revenue share for 5 to 25 years.
But then it's what it's an interesting thing because sometimes people simply make it too complicated. I totally get the point why somebody says I don't want to do it on revenue because I have my own costs, blah blah blah, etc.
We get it as well.
But people always forget then everything else is horrible complex and complicated. And then you need a financial person who's calculating this stuff. Then the stuff starts with, this month we had a little bit higher cost, but that's not Andy's fault. So how will this influence the numbers and so on? And in some cases, people need to search for what is the simplest solution for a problem. And not what is the absolutely right number. In a lot of cases, then that's why I said revenue. I thought they are coming back then and saying, okay, we figured all out. EBITDA is not possible. Cross profit is not possible. After sales is not possible. We are going back. We're doing revenue.
Right. They actually at one point, a few weeks later, they came back and they were like, nah, now we're just considering paying the full 6 months straight away. And I was like, also great. No revenue shares, no discounts. We'll just pay you the 6 months. Let's just get on with it. So it's funny, very quickly, talking about the NASA app and doing the updates on that. That's where, and you said people just need simple solutions. The team Anaheim rooftop, not a party, is a great example of that simple solution. So instead of doing one big party for someone and we spend a long time arguing about how much it will cost, what our fees are, no revenue shares, no complexities. There's 10 packages available. Who wants one, right?
Yeah.
And that's when it goes into why we're trying to productize our services, because one-on-one, a lot of people don't have a lot of money in their cash flow to just pay consultants.
Yeah, and I think it makes totally sense, because what people forget also on your story before is their time costs money, your time costs money. So when I negotiating 10 times with you what the potential payment model is, I did it in the past I was in the partnership business, so it means you dealt with a relatively closed number of partners, and then you had every now and then a new procurement person, and they started all these negotiating thing and so on. And on some point, I started to say to these guys, we can negotiate everything, but every time I put my number now higher, because it's cost of sales. I need to calculate it in my services, etc. And on some point, they understood it then, because we had, in some cases, 2 years negotiations of contracts. So, and then they're coming back. Can we talk again about point one? So, no. And the most funny answer, and I think that's also what sometimes people forget, is the delivery of something. So in services, it's always negotiating 2 years, and then somebody signs a contract, and then you need to deliver immediately. So my best answer to, and one consultant told it to me to answer this, is when somebody asks you how fast you can deliver, your answer is simple: the same time what you need to sign the contract.
Yes, exactly.
So and then it's super helpful. Cool. Andy, we are running a little bit out of time. It's the longest podcast so far. 1 hour, 1 hour 45.
For the world's longest podcast, always invite Andy.
It was super interesting. So thank you.
It was great.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, we touched nearly every topic. I think Atlas Camp, sports activities, the difference between diligence and discipline. We talked about funding and your amazing idea to create products out of managed services and services. So we will post the stuff. I'm sure people will get in contact with you. So last question to you. Where are the next events where you are on site? I mean, Team 25, we already talked about. That's for sure.
So it depends on how fast you publish this. I'm in Bristol, Feb 19th.
Yes.
Ace Bristol, preaching about the future of fun work and all that 3 Ps and 3 Cs goodness.
Yeah.
And then due to project deadlines and stuff internally and whatnot, nothing in March. So people will see me in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And thoughts are to put together a big summer European tour post Team 25, like the June, July. Again, taking those consulting as a product and helping a lot of people reach out across Europe for eventing and stuff. So
sounds good.
Yes. We'll be a little bit quiet, and then we'll be very, very loud.
Okay, looking forward to it. Perfect.
Awesome.
Then
thanks
you very much, and have a great one.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.